King Charles led the memorial service at the Cenotaph on Remembrance Day yesterday, and the monarch laid the first wreath after observing a 2-minute silence. Now, he turns 75 tomorrow and has released a new portrait in The Big Issue to mark the occasion.
Well, royal commentator Kinsey Schofield joins us now from Los Angeles. Kinsey, good morning or good afternoon or good evening. I don't know what time it is over in LA.
I know.
Go on.
It is 10 to 11 at night.
Oh, well, good evening, Kinsey. The
you.
King obviously attended those Remembrance Day services yesterday, but he also unveiled statues of his parents this weekend. Is that right?
That's right. It was ahead of the royal. They went to the Royal Albert Hall for this year's Festival of Remembrance. And ahead of that ceremony, the King and Queen Camilla unveiled life-size bronze statues of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. These statues were erected to celebrate Royal Albert Hall's 150th anniversary. Apparently, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip loved this venue. And the King was said to have been very emotional. He was moved by the art. There's pictures of him where he's almost tearful. So, you know, it's exciting to see him have these really genuine reactions to such beautiful moments a year after his mother's passing.
Kins, without getting you involved with everything that's been going on, it was a pretty dreadful weekend in this country with all of the marches and protests, and it all spilled over into the Cenotaph and the royals. Obviously not dragged into that sort of thing, but it would be fascinating as they stood there in all their finery to know what they made of all the misery that was going on beneath them, because it is massively important, and I make the point again and again, we should all remember those who went before us and allowed us to have the liberty that we have today. And that's really what the royal family would have been there for, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we saw, and from an American standpoint, just watching it, it was a solemn, dignified display of patriotism. So it really was beautiful from an American standpoint. But we are having those issues too. Just a few days, it was last week, a 69-year-old man died because a pro-Palestine individual hit him with one of these blowhorns. Yeah, megaphone fell on the concrete and he passed away. So you are not alone. We're struggling with the same issues here in the States and trying to navigate all of this really just devastating. It's devastating loss across the board. And then you're trying to digest the fact that there could be so much hate still in a world when we've worked so hard to overcome these prejudices.
I couldn't agree more with that. Here's something for you. Big issue.
Yes.
Charlie's on the front.
No, this is happy news, right?
Yeah.
So this is a beautiful new picture of Charles taken outside of Clarence House last month during a launch of his coronation food project. In this article, he writes about how he'd love to see an end to food waste and poverty. This has been something near and dear to his heart for a very long time, but a very handsome shot, if I do say so myself. I think Patrick Dempsey might have a run for his money next year on The Sexiest Man Alive.
Can I do the Patrick Dempsey thing? Because my two... Alice came in this weekend, she's 20, Ava's 18. They're going on about Patrick Dempsey. What's so special about Patrick Dempsey, for God's sake?
Well, he's a stud muffin, number one. If you've not seen Can't Buy Me Love in 1987 was the cutest movie where he goes from geek to chic, and just seeing that transformation. But, you know, if you love Grey's Anatomy, he's just so wonderful in Grey's Anatomy.
Patrick Dempsey.
Is he a stud muffin?
Sure. I love that we got the phrase stud muffin into a segment on the royal family. I didn't think it could be done, Kinsey.
Is Charles a stud muffin? Look at the ears on him, they're bigger than mine.
But, Kinsey, you've got to say, to see the king, a man who lives in, just a few palaces, castles here and there, talking about food poverty. The optics of it, not always great. I think it's amazing what he's doing, cutting down on food waste and
He's one of your lot. He's gone on about it for years.
No,
it's a good thing.
I
that
think
spreads
it's amazing.
The message.
But there's also it's obviously really important to have famous people on the cover of the big issue, so it sells lots of copies. But is there a bit of an optics issue there with King Charles and his palace talking about food poverty?
Nicola, you're always asking me the tough questions. I think that he has, because he's been so steady in this message, I think he gets kind of a pass, right? This is not something that he's saying all of a sudden. It's been important to him for decades upon decades. He started talking about ways that we should garden and farm to prevent waste back in 1970.
I always said about
so
him.
if it was anyone else, I think that we would have a bigger issue with
Kins,
it.
I always said with him, and do you remember when he was waiting to, I mean, your destiny is only when your mother dies, and he once talked about architecture, and everybody went, oh, keep your mouth shut. If he keeps his mouth shut, he's just doing nothing, and if he opens it, I think he's actually using, and you'd be surprised me saying this, his role and his publicity and all that to talk about something that he cares about. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's his birthday on Tuesday. And I knew tomorrow we wouldn't be able to do a segment without talking about them. Did they snub it? Did they not get invited? Who cares? Harry and Meghan, yes!
They were not invited according to Harry and Meghan, and I actually believe them in this particular instance.
So you don't think they'll be there tomorrow then, either way. But they do live on the other side of the world, so, you know.
And how could they possibly get here in a plane because of the carbon footprint? And that would upset everybody that they worry about,
Well,
wouldn't
William
it?
didn't go to the Women's World Cup. Do you know what? Difficult questions, Kinsey, but fantastic answers.
We love you for being
always.
on, Kins. Thanks, darling.
Thank you, Kinsey. Well, lots more still to come